left anywhere that I know of in 3 counties, I believe, that is still providing medic service out of that hospital. And Scott didn't get into numbers, but I will tell you that the numbers that Effort is losing on their medic service is well above $500,000 annually. They were told by their corporate hospital, which is in York, they have to reduce that cost somehow by at least 50% in 2019. If they don't reduce that cost, that service could go away. And if that service goes away, this whole end of the county is going to be in a major dilemma. We're going to have a major dilemma. Not just financially, it's going to be how we provide the service, period. So,
Scott, I have my notes here. Yeah, that was the ALS service. Yeah.
that's the ALS service.
Branch life.
And the other thing too is, as now the trickle effect is as WellSpan tries to reduce their cost of half, they provide all the paid drivers for all the volunteer companies right now, so you can see where some of that reduce their cost in half is going to come from. It's going to put more stress on the volunteer systems now.
We got about 20 people in this room. Think about what was said here tonight. You got any ideas? There are no stupid ideas. Let's talk about it. This is serious. This is serious stuff. And I know it was mentioned here, Scott, and I keep saying Scott and I, we talked, and we've always said that if we have to go the route, it's going to make his budget, this guy's budget, look like a fairy tale compared to what EMS is going to be coming down the road. You don't get the volunteers for the fire companies. You don't get the volunteers for the EMS. You do the math. You figure it out. You're going to wind up with paid people. And the police department budget of $3 million is going to look like a nursery rhyme. If you start buying fire equipment and paying those guys to man the stations and everything else. That's not a threat, that's just being real about it. It's just a shame you can't get the other 70% of the people in a group, in a township or a city or whatever, to step up to the plate. And I think the way you can get it done is, and no one wants to hear it, is a fee or a tax. It's straight across the board. Call it per capita tax, call it whatever, but everybody pays.
I'd rather pay that than an MS4 tax.
Pardon?
I'd rather pay that than an MS4 tax.
There you go.
I think most people in the room would agree on that.
I'm just saying, you know, something's gonna have to happen.
This is, as we talked about, is going to be a standing item on our business for the rest of the fire.
Well, I wrote something down here, I'd like to talk with,
Yeah, 7 o'clock, yeah.
I wrote something down here, I want to talk with you and these other gentlemen after me.
But for the fire company's benefit, we, for the last couple of meetings, have been keeping fire and EMS as a standing conversation. And anytime anybody from the fire companies can come in to talk about any fire-related issue, it's an automatic agenda item right now.
Yes, definitely.
You know, Doug brought up a great point. You know, we've said this many times last year. We're all ears to ideas. You know, you guys are out there, you're working this daily, you're the professionals who know what you're doing as you're talking. You know, Chance had a comment, question, I mean, throw it out there. The more information we can get, the better off we are. We'll figure it out somehow. So,
Chad?
Yeah, is there provisions made right now, if Scott needs that 96,000 before the end of the year to get it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I personally don't want to see that service go away, I use it as close to home, so I have an interest in seeing it stay. The last thing I want to hear is, I know it's budgeted, but, I mean, can it get going?
It can be used.
Yes,
Yes,
correct.
yes.
Yeah, what I think we've agreed upon is that we'll provide invoices to the township that offset the money as we need it over the year. So we've not come to take any of that money yet, and we won't take it, I don't think, from here until we need it. I shouldn't say that we won't take it till we need it, but we're gonna wave it off as long and as hard as we can. This time of year, our fund drive's going, there's a lot of other things, so financially, we can stay afloat in the beginning of the year better here than we can later in the year, so I would assume you'll see us coming by,
Well,
July or something.
Then I guess you answered what
And
my
then
next
phase
question
it a couple of,
was. Then you're working out one account with everything.
mhm.
Because the other thing I would suggest is maybe getting an account for the ambulance and just bond it as needed. When that account gets low, then they just keep dumping money over until you, because I think it's gonna become a yearly thing. It's not, this isn't a once
Well,
and
I know,
done.
and I agree with that. And
There needs to be some financial
But I
understanding.
think that's probably why we should have some meetings, but I think
Right.
there's some sit down and do some brainstorming within a committee, because I think there's a lot of issues with running two accounts. Because right now, like, the Reamstown Fire Company owns and operates that ambulance. Well, they're running their own account, they're gonna get the bills for the ambulance. So I mean, at that point, I think it should be a spun-off organization.
Can't have it all like the way
Because
it's
like,
over.
there are people stay in our station 24/7. Well, there are people, but EMS people
Right.
are there 24/7. They don't pay any rent, they don't pay any housing, there's no heat, no light, no gas taxing, nothing. So they're getting as free a ride as they can. And they're not gonna make it on their own, they're gonna end up having to fund them.
So there's no way to spin it off like your auxiliary or something that's still under the fire company's
Oh, we
realm or something that would just be,
I don't wanna sit here and say we can't, but I'd really
Right.
like for a couple of people that know
Right.
more
you
about
need to look
that
at it, a little
and
more.
see if we can do that somehow. I mean, we do track the EMS numbers, so we know the numbers.
On the fire side, there's a fire chief's meeting with the manager next week on the 28th, where we're going to be looking at some options on the fire side too. So we're just starting that dialogue. We'll talk a little bit more about EMS at that meeting, the three chiefs.
Chance?
I had a question again for Scott. If you recategorize and purchase equipment and get more training for your EMTs, could you operate essentially as an ALS? And if you could, would you be able to charge more per service because you're an ALS provider?
You can charge.
So like if we go to WellSpan and say, hey, look, it's pointless to run two separate units, why don't you put one of your medic units on our paid crew with our ambulance? Then the fire company can bill out instead of the 600, we'll just throw 1,200 out there, what you were saying, for ALS and BLS.
Well,
Because then instead of getting the 600, the three, instead of only getting half of the 600, we're getting half of the 1,200.
well, let's just say that WellSpan comes and they say they're gonna put one of their ALS providers on our unit. They got two. So now we're out on the call with their ALS provider that's full-time with us, and Lineholtz has a call. That's a cardiac arrest. They run two ALS providers on every cardiac arrest. That's gonna tie up either two transporting units with the EMTs. So cost effectively, we looked at that, and that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
At
it
this
seems to
point,
be the
yeah.
trend with other agencies.
And they're
as
not
well.
making it. They're all in the red.
Well,
Every one of them, because now you're paying that paramedic probably $25 to $28 an hour versus an EMT that's gonna top out at 17 to 18. So you're already adding a $10 per hour increase to the wage. So there's a lot to it, is all I'm saying, that you have to sit down, you gotta look at this really long and hard.
Yeah, then I guess my follow-up question to that would be, going from full-time to more of a part-time base for employees, would that reduce the salary and the overhead? Because do your full-time staffers, do they have retirement benefits through WellSpan? And obviously, I don't think the part-time probably would, so that would take a couple bucks off an hour per person.
And where do you get the part-time help? We've tried that.
I don't know, I mean, you'd have to put it.
They're not there, and they're not
They're not out
down, because those people need full-time jobs and they need benefits, just like you do. These people are paid professionals. Actually, quite frankly, I think they get paid about half of what they're worth. If
Yeah, I always
that
said
would
that
cover it.
EMTs should get paid more than doctors, because they're the ones out doing all the work.
Well, they deal with the situation in a much less opportune moment. Let's put it that way. So doctors, a lot of doctors couldn't deal with what they deal with in the field. When they get to see them, they're already cleaned up, they're nice and neat laying on a cot. Yeah, they're not twisted around the steering wheel or under the seat or wherever with blood out. It's just, it's different. But however, you know, I think we've looked at a ton of that, and we're gonna continue to look at, those are the issues and the items that we're trying to address moving forward, is how we get more efficient, more cost effective, without losing any quality of service for our community.
The regionals are having a hard time getting full-time employees right now too, on the EMT side. So when we have that Susquehanna Valley EMS meeting, where we put volunteerism on our end as our number one thing, their number one thing for MEMSA, Susquehanna Valley EMS, is not obviously volunteers, but actually people that would be interested to take a job for $18, $19 an hour. That involves bad hours, playing with blood, infectious diseases and everything else for that rate. So it is such a complex issue at this point that we're trying to deal with between the funding and the staffing. And staffing, even down the road, if you go paid staffing, more and more paid staffing, you can't get people to take the paid job as their main job for that salary range that's offered for the amount of risk that you take on for that job.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Welcome.
Thank you, Captain Chiefs. Okay, new business, selling road department equipment.
Mr. Chair, I'm actually going to turn this, is Chris still here?
Yeah, these are in the
He's in the
corner.
corner back. I'm going to actually turn this over to Chris. As you were aware, 2 weeks ago, we had an issue come up with the wiring of one of our plow trucks. Chris has been kind of looking at things at this point. He's kind of put a game plan together, and we actually need to move rather quickly on what he's going to present tonight. So, Chris, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I explained to you 2 weeks ago about the electrical issues we had in the truck. We have 2 old trucks at the shop. We need one of them on the road. Both of them had issues. After that meeting with you 2 weeks ago, I made a few phone calls to some of the CoStar truck dealers. International has 7 trucks online for sale. They do not have an owner to any of these trucks yet. So he gave me specs for a truck, and it's possibly just a smidge nicer than the last International we had. 2 days later, I got a phone call from him. He sold that one. Here's the next one he has. This one's still the same, a little bit better than what we have. The price he came in at for this new truck is $154,579. He gave me a lease rate of 4 years at 0.27% for $42,386.40 as a payment. 5-year lease would be at 0.22 for $34,722.89. The last purchase that you've made for a dump truck, you did not go through International.
No.
You found another leasing company that gave you better deals. I suggest we go that way again. To compensate, to help out with it, we actually have the purchase of the skid loader. So we're going to be selling the loader. Scott and I looked at some prices online of equipment being sold. We have a loader better than the one that was online. The 2 dump trucks we got prices for. The 1 mower for parklands, which we will no longer need, got a price for that. Plus, the only thing I missed is I have a trailer yet up for sale, which we didn't compare a price on that. But roughly, the prices we came up to was $36,000 at a lowball price. Now, we made a good bit of change going municipal with that International when we did that the last time, or actually the GMC. And we weren't looking at numbers off of municipal. So we might get more than even the 36. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I'm looking at it this way. There's the down payment for the first payment of the truck. The truck's first payment would be due upon delivery. At this rate that they're at, they are saying I would have that truck in my hands in October.
Before it snows.
before it snows. But to secure that, we need to get a signature.
What's the rate for the 5-year?
0.22463.
That's a good rate.
If you were to consider this thing, which I hope you would, we don't necessarily need to lock in the lease rate at this point.
Just
Obviously, the bill's not due till October, so you just agree on what the purchase price is. We can go around and we can get a couple different quotes on lease rates at this point to find out what's
Yeah, I can call
the
it
best rate is.
Well, we need another big dump truck for plowing snow.
We do.
I mean, you have a dump truck that doesn't have lights,
No.
doesn't work.
It does not appear that it actually has a good long-term fix either, so
No.
the purchaser of that dump truck, the one that has the rear wiring harness now out, is probably going to get a off-road vehicle on it at this point.
Yeah.
So it'll be used for farming or quarry action, nothing else at this point.
It needs a whole new wiring harness. I personally would like, okay, buying the truck. It's, we have to, in my
What's
opinion.
that price again?
154,579. That's including the plow and the spreader.
That's the plow and the spreader, and
That's fully,
basically the same truck we had this last purchase, except for putting a canopy on that also.
Yeah,
Retracting
you need a canopy.
so it's fully equipped.
Yeah,
Fully
It's
equipped.
fully outfitted.
Correct.
ready to go. What's the wish of the board?
I don't think we have a choice. Doug, I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to.
No,
vote on
no,
this.
no.
If you were considering the motion, I'll just read the motion. The motion would be to sell the road department equipment as discussed on this bid and to purchase an International 504 dump truck for $154,579 as discussed.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll come back in the next, probably it'll take a couple of weeks, we'll come back with some leasing options in the future meeting.
Leo Club Road toll road.
Here, this is a routine request, this whole has been before the board on many occasions. You have the email in front of you that was presented making the request. It's about for the Leo Club with Cocalico High School. It's for Church Street and Williamstown Road. The date they'd like to do is Saturday, May 11th, 2019, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. The proceeds collected will be for Operation Smile, which is a free operation for children with cleft lips and palates in third world countries. And they're just asking for your approval of that. Obviously, they will give the police department a prior day's notice to the event happening.
And there are adult supervision.
Adult supervision, and in the instances with the road crew will provide the barricades and everything else that might
And May is the month that we have designated for the Lido Club.
Yep, that's correct.
I make the motion.
Go ahead. I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Stony Point Park Community Bill. There's been, as you guys know, there's been a ton of activity going on with the Stony Point Community Build project now that we have the design day set for May 6th. The group is meeting once to twice a week. I've been attending all those meetings and assisting them. Mr. McCray has also been volunteering and is serving as the group's historian, among many other functions at this point. We have already received two major donation pledges, and I just want to acknowledge one of them tonight. It's Garden Spot Freeman and Lyman, who has donated $23,000 to the community build. Our original goal was to raise $100,000, so that was a pretty good number. Our new goal, though, is to raise a lot more than $100,000. but it's a good start. They're very community oriented with what they are trying to do. Tony and I have been dealing with them for the last 2 years. I can't imagine a better business moving into this community, and they're starting off with a major donation to Stony Point Park. So I just wanted to give them a public acknowledgement about that. We have, if you look behind you on the screen, I just want to show you some of the things that we are have going on at this point. We have one of our volunteers, two of our volunteers right now have been going around Stony Point, East Cocalico Heights, and the greater Reevestown area. And they've been doing door-to-door, meeting with people, explaining what the projects are. They've had 500 door-to-doors at this point around the Reevestown area. They give them a leave behind like this, which talks about the meeting information. We've had volunteer recruiting meetings that have come out of this. We've had a couple dozen volunteers that are now interested in helping out. Not all of them so much on our executive working group, but are interested in doing, being involved in the process. One of the things they get left behind with is one of these pamphlets which explains the community build process, and then has QR code which people can scan with their cell phone and get taken to the Facebook page, to actually a video presentation that we have, and then a volunteer sign-up page for when they what areas they can volunteer. Kind of just trying to do a little bit of promotion. This has been very well received as it's been passed around the community. On the design day itself, we're starting to get ready for design day. This is actually going to be the form that will go out. The Cocalico School District agreed to have a couple mailers go home with the students with their Wednesday packet distributions. So there's going to be a Wednesday packet distribution in mid-April that's going to explain the project, early mid-April. And then the Thursday before design day, in early May, this item is going to go home with a second time that students now. Students actually get to draw their playground ideas. It's going to be a homework assignment for all the elementary school kids in Reevestown Elementary School, as well as we're doing this with all the parochial schools that are within 5 miles of Stony Point Park. So that's another 300 students that we're going to be involved in. They will be drawing their playground, what they would like to see in the playground. On design day itself, these would be collected. The designer would actually use these drawings we've talked about in the past to help design the playground. One of the things we're trying to do is also promote it again. So in the back of the drawing page, we're throwing in, see if people would be willing to put their information and opportunities again for how they would be able to volunteer. So I think it's a pretty slick process. We've got school district is completely on board, as well as the PTA. The PTA now has joined our group at this point and is actively involved, going to be involved with design day. For design day, we're going to be looking at about 30 volunteers that we're going to need to pull it off. The majority of which we're going to need the evening hours when the design is revealed, and that will be at 6 o'clock at the Reevestown Elementary School gym and cafeteria. We'll be serving food. The designer will reveal the design that the kids came up with during the day, as well as some of his own ideas they heard from the working group. There's going to be games, activities, inflatables, and those kind of things. And we're anticipating we'll have at least 300 people, half kids, half adults, that will be at this event. So that really kind of is what these next couple meetings, like I said, we're meeting weekly now. Every other week it's a meeting for volunteers, and then other weeks it's actually getting ready for design day. We will have a sign-up genius that will be going out. I would hope if we get board members to come to the evening, I'll be including that. It's kind of like an all-hands-on deck event at this point to get this kicked off. And I think it's going to be a good project. We get design day kicked off, the project at that point really goes live. There's now drawing. We go to the businesses seeking donations. We go to different community groups seeking volunteers. So Another thing we had talked about, we did present this, I talked to UGI's, we mentioned the last meeting's coming in. They are providing us 20 volunteers to work in our parks this year in April. So we're going to have 15 of them at Fishing Creek Park and 5 of them at Greenstone Park. The 5 at Greenstone Park are just going to be doing general picking up the trash and sticks. The Fishing Creek Park, they're going to be doing trash and sticks, plus they're going to be moving dirt and roadway material that has washed all over the place, plus some of the damage we had from a couple people that chose to do off-roading in the mud and did some significant damage to the park. So they're going to be breaking, they're going to be moving gravel, moving dirt, seeding. They presented that to us. I made UGI aware of this project, and UGI does have all their employees are encouraged to volunteer 8 hours a year, and UGI pays for those 8 hours. So that's where these 20 volunteers are coming from this year. Our goal is to have UGI literally sponsor a portion of design day with volunteers. Take a 4-hour shift and put 100 volunteers actually at the park. We will also be going out to other groups to do the same thing when we get ready for the community build park. So it's coming together rather nicely. It was slow go the first couple of months, but now it's really picking up steam where it's making my head spin with how fast things are moving at this point. So I just wanted to give an update on that. The other thing is LERTA. As we talked about in the last meeting, the county adopted their portion of the LERTA ordinance on February 13th. I reported time that we had a number of interested parties. We were working on a form. Well, the form's now complete, approved by the school district. And we will have our first applicant next week filling out the form, which would be garden spot for him in Lyman, which we knew was going to occur. The other thing that's interesting is we talked about that this was going to be something that was going to lead to redevelopment in the township, especially on the 272 border. As Tony may be aware, and you guys are aware, the Black Horse property did sell. And one of the reasons that developer bought the Black Horse property, not the only reason, but one of the reasons, was because of the LERTA incentive. So we will be seeing this more and more as we look at other properties in the township. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So LERTA is happening. It seems to be very successful at this point. Another thing we talked about earlier, the permit manager was installed. It's going to be our work in progress as we get used to using that software package for tracking our permits and land development. But I'm excited to have everything automated into one place. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you that goes back to the Black Horse. The county, as we talked about a couple months ago, it doesn't have enough space now for my product. The county has started a program of has started developing an official map for the township, as we talked about. They're working with the planning commission on that official map. So this is one of the official maps that they're working on, just for the Colonel Howard Boulevard area at this time, the interchange. And then they have an overall township-wide official map. I already sent them markups the other day to the official map of some changes that need to be made, in particular just this part of the map, which is the Colonel Howard Boulevard area. So the oriented, this is UGI right here. This is the future area of Henderson. This is where Pepperidge is planning to expand. This dot line, that was what the county had put in there as a paper street. Obviously, that's right in the middle of where Pepperidge Farm would like to expand, so that's not real feasible. It also doesn't work well with what's now being proposed with the Black Horse. What works well for the Black Horse is to actually signalize the driveway location where Pepperidge is right now. So slight shift to the Turnpike Bridge to align with the property lines. And then what this map would look like, as I was writing my personal lines, that would be where the paper street is. not up here where Pepperidge has an expansion project at this point. Right.
Right there. There you go.
Okay.
That way you can see it.
So this would be the new Hill Road extension. It would be by a different name. Pepperidge would more than likely still stay private, but this would become a public road into Black Horse, tie this way, and then what we would have is a 90-degree intersection, another 90-degree intersection with Hill Road. We would move the proposed signal from Hill Road down to this location. The proposed signal would be paid for by the developer of Blackbird. So there would be no signal on Hill Road. It would be down here. That would then help support their development of this site, and would also get them picking up half of what we used to call the Hill Road extension, paid for by the developer. And then Act 209 would pay for this leg here on the township lands. There could be the potential for an S-curve, but myself and Brent, given the history of the Denver Road S-curve, are a little bit leery about introducing another S-curve that may be non-standard. 90-degree intersections with stop sign control actually work better. So we would be looking at 90s, and then that would give full access to a public road to the back area here for Blackford, the Blackford site to develop. They are looking at, on the Blackford site, it's an open book right now what they may or may not develop, but it would probably involve a complete demo of everything that's on here at this point. New hotel, probably some fast food restaurants to the front, which would actually be what would generate the signal. And then in the future, some sort of use which may include a truck stop at this location there. So that's kind of what's being proposed by the developer. I don't want to mention the developer right now by name, and I don't want to go into any more detail than that right now. I did want to put that out because that will now start showing up on what the planning commission is talking about. I'm going to explain why it's something different than what have always historically been talked about, which is what the county is currently showing here. I do know that this would be fought very hard by Pepperidge for obvious reasons, as a major impact to their project. I think they would be very much more amenable to something like this, because that would give them more land for them to do what they would someday hope to do on this site. And they were trying to get 10 pounds in the 5-pound sack on this site, so that would, I think, with working with their engineers, we could have a really good situation. Black Horse developer, who's an engineer himself, is very eager at this point to have a conversation with Pepperidge and to help facilitate this whole thing. So just wanted to talk to you that we are doing, that was one of our 2019 goals, doing comprehensive planning. The official map is part of doing your comprehensive planning. It's one of your first steps. And we appreciate the county helping step up to kind of take the lead on drafting it and getting input from us in the community. I also just marked up made some tweaks of what they're showing on the Benderson site to kind of match more with what the plans are. They do show the interchange project, which we talked about someday, even if it was called the Virgin Diamond, it would be a Virgin Diamond project in this location. So it's going to take our Act 209 study, it's going to tie in the known PennDOT projects, and we can start tying in some of the known developer projects too.
Good, very good.
Very good.
The other thing, working with Tony, we are in the process of updating our zoning ordinance with a text amendment to address the video game terminals, flexible parking requirements, and limiting special exception for home businesses, for the simple permit process, small cell towers, et cetera, et cetera. Tony has a list that he's put together. He's now running things past the zoning hearing board. Once we get that list together, or have Brent's list on the Saturday side, we will then get a meeting, which, like I talked about in last year's budget, we have more budget for the engineering and for the solicitor to do text amendments for the Saturday and the zoning. So that is moving at this point. Last thing is Heatherwood's update. Originally, I was going to tell you that we're still waiting to hear from the attorney from Lexon, and that we had reached out to him 4 times in the last couple of weeks. 6 o'clock tonight, we got an email with a counter proposal from them that we need to evaluate, and I'd rather not talk anymore beyond that at this point with that, other than we have something to look at now. And the next meeting, we will go over the 2018 audit. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Scott, you just hinted there on the small cell tower. You're talking 5G.
What's that?
I said you hinted there on the small cell tower.
Yeah.
You're talking 5G.
That's what's driving small cell towers 5G. So.
Okay.
There's Code Law Group has been actively doing that, but we have to decide as a township, do we want to write into our zoning warrants, or do we want to have a separate cell tower ordinance? You can go 5 in one hand, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in another. Sometimes it's cleaner just to create a whole new ordinance. So at least what they will do anyway. If we can't stop, there's groups out there, and unfortunately, you'll find when we put this out here, when we start talking about it, we're going to have a room full of people. Most of them are not going to be residents of this township. I call them the EMF people, and they will show up in force talking about how bad EMFs are and how horrible the municipality is for not prohibiting cell towers in the township. They view these small cell tower ordinances as an opportunity to keep them completely out of the township, and that's not at all what the PUC and what the feds have said at this point. We have to permit it. We can provide some reasonable restrictions on it, but nothing more at this point. We have to permit it. We cannot charge exorbitant fees in the permitting process for them to do it because of what Philadelphia had done when they were charging $1,500 to sell small cell site. The PUC struck down that fee schedule. So I just wanted to put that out there. We will have an audience. We're doing in East Hemphill Township, and our county commissioner has had very full rooms as they've talked about small cell towers. So when we engage in that, the group will move up here. The only thing I would encourage the board to do, which you've already established, is from the public comment period, really should be limited to people who pay taxes in the township or own property in the township or a resident of the township, not outside group speaking.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you. Public comment. Please state your name. Any public comment? Yes, sir. Your name, please?
Thomas Smith.
Yes.
This is about an old issue. I just want to make sure that now we get warm, that it doesn't disappear. If I'm not forced out, sell, I want to make sure the issue's taken care of, fixed. And I just want to comment before I left, their skids were in the door.
Mr. Smith and I have been working on this, oh boy, for the last 2 years at least. Tom brought it to my attention, a property over on Cocalico Creek Road.
Yeah.
They had a wood burner within the riparian buffer zone. Okay? They've had tractor trailer bodies, 2 of them on site, a lot of debris. It's a property maintenance issue. Okay? And I've been working with the homeowners over the last 2 years to get this place cleaned up.
It's a homemade stove, made out of a boiler.
Basically,
It
an outdoor wood
smokes.
burner,
It
homemade.
smokes. It has no regulator, no draft, no nothing. It had, it's,
The owners have since provided documentation on the wood burner. It's legal to have a wood burner in the township per the ordinance, but it is not legal to have it in the riparian buffer zone or in any flood zones.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say they have moved it, relocated it within the last month or so. I was out on site one day when they were cutting it apart to move it. There's multiple issues with the property, and the owners have had some substantial health issues lately, hospital stays and all that. With the weather being what it is and back and forth, it's delayed their progress, but they have been making progress. And I've been on them about this. I've sent them several notices. Quite honestly, it's getting to the point where if they can't do what they need to do, we may have to visit Judge Hamill's office about it. Okay? it's been my experience in the last 12 years, going to Judge Hamill's office is always a good thing, but if you go there without your ducks in a row and showing that the people are not compliant, she'll bounce it back and say, well, look, they're working with you, you've got to work with them. And I'm compassionate to the residents of the township to do that, as I would with Mr. Smith or anybody else in the township, but they are making some progress. It may not be as fast as Mr. Smith or some of us would like, but they are going in the right direction. Now, I have visited the site just yesterday, and Mr. Smith is correct. They've got, basically in these wood burners, they have firewood and stuff there to start them up, get them going. These things smoke tremendously when they first start them up. We've got several of them here in the township. Once they're warmed up, it's a better issue, and it's not a problem. But again, it's a never-ending, it's a
Thing smokes 24/7,
Yeah.
and it just puffs. It don't shoot at me, it just puffs.
Tony, it's in a riparian area?
My
Not anymore.
my night cameras pick up all detectives coming out.
What are they using it for, heat or the water?
They're heating
or
my
what?
house.
Heat for the house, okay.
Well, I'm going by what Mr. Smith says, but I have no proof that they're heating more than one residence. In fact, I've explained this to them, that if you have a wood burner by ordinance, by law, it's for one residential unit only. You can't do multiple units. Now, in the past, they may have, but I have never seen proof of that. The bottom line is, I've made this apparent to the homeowners what the ordinance is. I've copied the ordinance and supplied this to them. And they're, like I said, they're working with us to make it happen. Unfortunately, it's not as fast as we would have liked. So, the zoning department has a decision to make in the very near future. I will meet with the owners again and see what progress they've made, and we'll go forward from there. If we have to go to see Judge Hamill, I certainly will do that. We've done that in the past with other properties. But again, it's a roller coaster. They work towards compliance, then things slow down. Mr. Smith comes in to visit, and we get him going again.
Do we know what they've been burning?
I'm sorry?
Do we know what they've been burning in that stove, or?
Plywood.
I've never been on site.
Plywood and skids and whatever the school district brings, and whatever the water and sewer brings.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, plywood OSB or?
It kind of looks like marine plywood. When he gets it from his work, they pack windows in it.
Okay.
They pack and ship windows in them, and it's,
So it could be straight plywood, OSB, composite?
it's not chipboard. It's, but it's glue. There's glue.
There's glue in it.
And whatever else the school district is bringing there, and water and sewer is bringing there, they're pretending it's incinerator.
I think it's important to note, Mr. Smith lives across the street from this property. He's a little bit of a distance away, and there's been some issues with property owners over the years. He's been ostracized, and it's gone back and forth, just to give you the full picture. I've been on site many times, but never when this thing was running, when it was burning. Piles of pallets and skids to the rear of the property are on the property. I haven't seen them cutting them up and putting them in that furnace, but the ordinance says you're not allowed to burn dimensional lumber of any type in an outdoor wood burning stove, and I've explained this to the property owners also. So,
Because the contaminants in the wood.
correct. You know, certain skins are treated, certain different woods are glue, like Mr. Smith says, all of that. But again, I can't validate that unless I see it with my own eyes.
And you were just out, how recently? Today?
No, not today, actually, 2 weeks ago.
What would be your normal turnaround to go out and visit them again?
Usually I try and do it at least every 2 to 3 weeks to see what kind of progress they've made.
Okay.
Now with the weather conditions, you know, with snow and all that stuff, obviously it's gonna slow people up from doing it. Now these folks are up there in age, and they're doing this type of work themselves, but it's their
You
problem.
still
to get
gotta
it
abide
done.
by the ordinance, doesn't
Correct.
matter. You know,
Correct.
Sorry.
No, I'm not
Um,
condoning it one bit.
So what you're saying is, you can anticipate a visit to them in another week and a half or so?
Actually, I'm scheduling one next week. And my visits don't always need to have them there. They work, I pull in, take a look, take some pictures, I have documentation.
I guess my comment would be that, and you alluded to it, you told them that they're not allowed to burn dimensional lumber.
Correct.
I think if I were to pull in and there was dimensional lumber laying there,
Well, now, the dimensional lumber and stuff that I'm talking about is in a separate section of the yard. It's a pretty good sized property, and they're piled towards the rear by these tractor trailers that have to be removed. I've never seen this stuff piled in front of the door of the furnace. Okay, it's never been that close, but there's a lot of that stuff on site.
You can see it.
Why
from the
else would
road.
you need it there? Why else
You
would
can see it stacked from the road.
Does the stock diminish?
Huh?
Does the stock get
So they burn it, I can hear, they build a deck down there. And they use the deck somehow to smash plywood to put in the stove. I hear it in my house, over the TV.
Is there any pattern to when they're burning it? Does it tend to be like on specific days every
Since I
week?
complained about it, they let it smolder all day long. And as soon as they see my house lights go out at night, they fire them. I hear it go out again. My house ends up full of smoke. I'm pissed about it. It's been going on 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this didn't happen yesterday. You know, and the next thing is the tenants. Yes.
I think it's important to say that we're
Yeah, we're boarding
been
house.
there 20 years.
If you ask anybody in the area where the halfway house is, they'll say, oh yeah, it's over at the covered bridge. That's what's going on, and they try to tell everybody that it's they rent the veterans, but they don't. When I first moved there, there was 2 apartments, and that got bigger, and it got bigger, and bigger, now it's up to like 8 to 12. They all share the same toilet, same shower, same mailbox.
My question to Mr. Smith was on some of these allegations, because I can't go by hearsay.
I have cameras.
Yeah. Can you validate, has he ever been in the house? I talk with my police department, if there's police activity, I get a real idea of what's happening in these establishments, because I technically and legally can't go into these facilities unless there's a health or a safety hazard, okay? They're family members, there's multiple family members living on that site in different residences. There's no law against that. I've had complaints that there were RVs on the property being rented out, people living out of them. I've been there to see it. None of them being lived in.
They're living in sheds. See, now it's getting warmer. I just want to make sure that I have this hard copy of this. So I'm not forgotten, swept under the rug. Because I might be forced to move out. I can't put it there. I've been there 26 years, almost 26. The tourists don't even stop. This is the covered bridge, the highlights of this township.
Now you know what it is.
So you're planning on going out?
Next week.
Next week.
I'll be out there next week.
They actually had a heat pipe running underneath the covered bridge over to the other property.
Well, that's what it said, I haven't seen it. I've been to the covered bridge looking, taking pictures, I haven't seen it.
well, that's not our bridge, that's a county bridge.
Is it really?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, that bridge is owned by the county.
And if there's something under that bridge,
Yeah.
then it is a visit that district justice handled office, I'm sorry.
No, I've been there and I've.
They rebuilt it the last time, and I think the words were, that's the last time they're gonna do it, when that guy in a oversized truck tried to go underneath it and tore the crap out of it. And the county told us, we'll do it this time, but next time it's yours. Which was great of them, because that was expensive. I know there's an ordinance, and I'm not, there's an ordinance that says, I shouldn't say I know, I think I'm right, that no more than 5 unrelated people or some number can live in a house at one time. Is that right?
As a group home,
Right.
yeah.
But there's nothing that says you can have X number of people in a house.
Building code limits square footage,
Fire safety.
rooms and.
I mean, I'm just trying to get a handle on this, I'm not.
Building code stipulates the minimum square footage for anybody to inhabit a residence or a bedroom or any of that. We have a group home in our ordinance, 5 unrelated people, and that constitutes a whole family. You know, that's-
I thought it was fine.
Now, according to the GIS map system that I have for the township, I don't want to mention anybody's names, but their family members, mom and the mother, the elderly mother, and then the daughter and son-in-law, and several other of the extended family are living there on that property. There's a couple of different residences.
Tony, can I say something?
Sure.
Our neighbor, our next door neighbor, put granite corners in the backyard,
I know the one you're talking about.
and I asked the question, because they were told, when Granny dies, no one moves in that house.
Well, they can't rent it out. It could be a family member, because it's family, but they can't rent it out. They can't use it as a source of income.
I bet they don't report.
But their kids could move back there?
If it's family, blood relation, they would be allowed to, yes.
Because you told me it was up to the neighbors to police it. I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, you know, and that's the good part. I commend Mr. Smith because we've got 10,300 residents in this township, you know, roughly 3,000 to 4,000 residences. I can't be everywhere all the time, so I depend on that at least to alert me to some of these things. And he's brought it to my attention here in the last couple of years that it's really ramped up. And he was absolutely right. This wood burner and other things that have come into play. But yeah, I can't be everywhere all the time, but I certainly follow up on them.
I just want to make sure though that
It won't get brushed under the rug. In fact, I sent out letters.
This is now videotaped, so the whole world knows.
Yeah, everybody knows.
small letters told me to do this.
Yeah, it'll be on the cloud for 100 years.
No, as well as these folks we're talking about, Mr. Smith and a few of the other property owners also got property maintenance letters because they all have some issues in their backyards.
No,
So, you know, it's across the board, it's fair and it's honest across the board for everybody.
Yeah.
no, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in. What I'll commit to you is I'll definitely follow up with Tony myself within the next week and a half. He and I will circle back just to see where this is at.
It's getting warmer, and I know what they're gonna do. I know the people, I lived next to them for 20 years. It's gonna ramp up. Because they won't need heat, so now they're moving into the cameras. It'll get ugly. Even if there's only one car in the parking lot, there's still 4 people there. Because there's walk-ins. And you have Mrs. living there, and then you have, I don't know what his name is, the guy that talks funny, he's there, that's 4. And that's without only one car in the parking lot.
But you
So
see,
when you see 6 cars in the parking lot, that means there's 12.
and I've explained this to Mr. Smith, I legally cannot go and knock on somebody's house and give them a hard time about what they're doing in that house without any just cause. And normally it comes from police or fire, and then I can get involved. But until that happens, I can't do that.
Right.
Well, if I hear a building again, then you can go out and give them a permit and say, okay, now I'll inspect it.
There's no law against giving them a permit for an accessory structure, provided they meet setbacks and it's used for what they
But
say.
then you can perform inspections.
With an accessory structure, there are no building inspections. It's a temporary structure that they can put for lawn and garden equipment, that type of thing. If they want to build a house or something to live in that type of structure, or a large whole building, there are inspections. There are building inspections. So, like I said, with these small accessory sheds, accessory buildings for equipment, there are no inspections.
No inspections, okay.
Not unless they put utilities in it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. We'll check in. We'll circle back with you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Our next board meeting, April 4th, will be at 9 a.m. Here. We'd like to, I need a motion to adjourn to go to executive session.
I'd make a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, just for the record, you're not coming back after this executive session. There's
No, there'll be no actions afterwards.
no last time around here.
So, we'll come back and reconvene and adjourn. Yeah. Thank you.
I stay away from the sweets, man.